Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. In this collection of stories, we recount 5 true, spine-chilling ghostly encounters from the 80s and 90s, often kept hidden due to their unsettling and baffling nature. Such stories, when unveiled by the courageous, have the power to rattle our core preconceptions about reality. The Funeral of Flowers. In the year 1996 in Denver, Colorado, 2 siblings, Jennifer Donnelly and her sister, often amused themselves on a trail located behind their parents' apartment complex. Their preferred season for these play sessions was spring, following the departure of the winter's cold, when the thawing ice formed a creek they could frolic in. Blooming trees invited them to climb, and numerous lilac bushes offered a delightful fragrance to savour. On one of these occasions, while deeply inhaling the sweet scent of a lilac bush, their hands filled with the fragrant springs to present to their mother, they were taken aback by the sudden presence of an elderly woman behind them. Her warm smile and the soft wrinkles etched on her face soon dispelled their initial surprise, leading them to respond in kind. "Lilacs, just beautiful, aren't they?" the elderly lady remarked, nudging her way in between the 2 sisters to appreciate the flowers herself. "They're my favourite. Such a wonderful smell." After savouring another deep inhalation, she turned to gaze at Jennifer and her sister. A melancholic expression washed over her. "I can remember them at Lincoln's funeral. The smell of them, so strong, so sad, but they still remain my favourite." "President Lincoln?" Jennifer questioned, receiving a nod in confirmation. "It was a grand funeral. Do you remember it?" Jennifer shook her head, exchanging a confused glance with her sister. Given that Lincoln was laid to rest in 1865, it was impossible for them to have any memory of it in their current year, 1996, which was 131 years past the event. Moreover, they were deep within Denver, a considerable distance away from Lincoln's final resting place. As Jennifer turned to probe further, she was startled to find the lady had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The 2 sisters never discussed the peculiar encounter again. The incident gradually faded from her younger sister's memory, being only 7 at the time. She had no recollection of the meeting when queried years later, but it lingered vividly in Jennifer's mind. She was reminded of the old woman once more in 2013, while seeing a lilac bush and concurrently listening to an audiobook of Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. She pondered the presence of lilacs at Lincoln's funeral. A quick internet search revealed that Lincoln's funeral was referred to as the Funeral of Flowers. Soldiers had strewn lilacs on the street before his carriage, their scent permeating the air as they were trampled, leaving a lasting impression on those in attendance. The realization that she had encountered a woman who claimed to have been present at the event overwhelmed her, bringing her close to tears, and even as she described the account, she felt a tingling sensation run down her skin. The butcher's knife in the bathtub. Back in 1997 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a man named Thomas Glenn Kelly and his girlfriend had taken up residence in an expansive, charmingly antiquated duplex located in the southern part of the city. Thomas's girlfriend worked the graveyard shift from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., while Thomas's own schedule led him to retire to bed shortly after she left each night. She would awaken him upon her arrival home each morning. One particular morning, she roused Thomas with a puzzling question. Why was there a butcher's knife in the bathtub? Bewildered, Thomas could offer no explanation, and the couple dismissed it with laughter. A few weeks later, she woke Thomas again with an eerily similar query. Why were the bone cutters in the bathtub? Once more they brushed it off, attributing the situation to the proximity of the kitchen and the bathroom, with the knife rack situated on a countertop just outside the bathroom. A month or so later, a recurring theme surfaced. The bone cutters had mysteriously appeared in the bathroom sink. This bizarre pattern of kitchen utensils migrating to the bathroom continued sporadically over the course of their 3-year tenancy. Approximately 10 times they woke up to find kitchen cutlery inexplicably deposited in the bathtub and bathroom sink, and once even in the toilet. As the lease was drawing to a close, they woke up on 2 occasions to find the butcher knife ominously positioned at the foot of their bed. On the final weekend of their stay in the duplex, they hosted a party, extending an invitation to the tenants residing in the lower level of the building. At the party, they met an older couple who had been long-standing inhabitants of the duplex, and in the midst of the party's conversations and cocktails, the topic of their landlord arose. The blood drained from their faces when the downstairs tenants disclosed that back in 1968, the landlord's mother had tragically taken her own life in their very unit. The chosen location for a grim act of desperation was the bathtub, and a tool of choice was a butcher's knife. One last look. In 1987, in Chula Vista, California, a woman named Julianne Peters acquired a quaint mobile home from an elderly lady who was relocating to Oregon to join her son's family. The elderly lady's sister, who had resided across from her, had passed away. About 2 years after Julianne had settled in, she experienced an unusual occurrence one evening. While alone and engrossed in a television program on her couch, Julianne noticed in her peripheral vision what seemed like a figure walking into her bedroom, situated at the end of the hallway on her left. She turned her head for a clearer look, only to find no one there. The same occurrence repeated after a few minutes, prompting Julianne to investigate her bedroom, but she found it empty. Around 30 minutes later, she perceived a figure slowly traversing in front of the large mirror situated to the left of the television. Although she found the incident puzzling, she didn't feel frightened. Julianne eagerly shared her experience with a co-worker the following day. Her co-worker, a Hawaiian woman with an interest in strange phenomena, proposed that Julianne might have had a spiritual visitation. However, Julianne was uncertain who it might have been. The day after, as she was tending to her yard, an elderly neighbour from the house behind her came over for a chat. She informed Julianne that Vera, the previous owner of the trailer, had passed away 2 days earlier. Upon hearing this news, Julianne shared the experience and expressed her suspicion that it might have been Vera's spirit that she saw. Her neighbour continued to reveal that Vera's son had mentioned his mother's regret about moving and a longing for a little trailer. It appeared as though Vera had wanted to have one final glimpse of her cherished home before moving on. After this incident, Julianne never witnessed her presence again. Hollywood Hobo. Back in 1984 in Los Angeles, California, a woman named Corliss Sinclair relocated from Connecticut to Hollywood with her partner Glenn. Their residence was located in North Hollywood, conveniently close to the heart of the city, enabling them to frequently venture on foot into downtown Hollywood. One sunny afternoon, as they were making their way towards Vine Street, they strolled by numerous storefronts, each presented in a similar fashion. These stores featured a tiled front, recessed entrances, and display windows flanking both sides of the door. In the entrance of one such establishment, Corliss observed a towering, dark-skinned man. He was leaning against the interior of the entryway, his gaze directed towards the street, watching as they approached Vine Street. Corliss scrutinized his face, taking note of his scruffy appearance, disheveled clothing, slight beard, long hair, and his considerable height. Beneath the facade of his rugged exterior, Corliss perceived a handsome young man, estimated to be around 30 years old, who returned her glance with a sober intensity. They continued their walk, passing several more storefronts, only to encounter the same mysterious man in another doorway. He was identically positioned and returned her gaze with exactly the same serious expression. Corliss was taken aback, but refrained from mentioning the strange occurrence to Glenn. As they proceeded past numerous additional storefronts, the man reappeared in yet another doorway, repeating the same pattern. The third encounter intensified Corliss's initial gaze into a stare. That was the last sighting of the man. Corliss was certain he hadn't run past them unnoticed, as the sidewalks were bustling with pedestrian activity. It puzzled her as to why he had chosen to reveal himself to her. Was his intent to unsettle an unknown young woman? To this day, the mystery of his repeated appearances remains unsolved, leaving callers to ponder whether she'd encountered a ghost with an abundance of free time on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Energy being. In the year 1992 in Myra Loma, California, Reba Duncan spent her first solitary night in her new residence. She was writing in the living room when her pen ran out of ink. Illuminating the hallway, she made her way to the bedroom, procured another pen, and returned to her writing spot in the living room. Shortly after, she discovered a need for more paper and quickly headed back towards her bedroom, this time choosing not to switch on any lights. As she approached the entrance to her room, she observed an entity she later referred to as energy being, just outside her bathroom, adjacent to the sliding doors leading outside. The figure stood with his arms elevated towards the sky, as if bathing in the moon's light. The energy being seemed to be relishing the experience, swaying his head from side to side and brandishing a smile until it became aware of Reba's presence. It then tilted his head to one side as though listening carefully and slowly receded into her bathroom. Although his features were not discernible, Reba was able to ascertain that it was male. Its body was outlined in a luminescence that gave it an almost caricature-like appearance. Startled, Reba retreated to the living room, where she continued to sleep for a significant period after the encounter.